Or I thought that attack occurring at a cafe in Copenhagen where they were holding a symposium on free speech and freedom. And one of the speakers during that event, of course, was a cartoonist who had been under death threats for the last 7 years by al-Qaeda and also by ISIS because he once drew a caricature of the Prophet Muhammad. This, of course, fitting in, it seems, with the string of attacks that we've seen recently, including the tragic attacks during Charlie Hebdo. So how can they be stopped, or is it just too late, considering the number of radical Islamic terrorists that authorities predict are a threat to Western Europe and to us here at home? Lisa Daftari joins us. She's a Middle East journalist and a Fox News contributor. So, Lisa, right now there's a manhunt going on in the early morning hours in Copenhagen for that one gunman, and this seems to be the type of attack that we are warned about, that we should worry about. Someone, apparently, who wanted to go after, in this case, this cartoonist, to kill him in a terrorist attack.
Right. So we're seeing now a pattern, at least within Europe, that there is a much wider network than previously believed. And now, what will happen in the aftermath? Will they say that this man spoke Danish, that this is homegrown terror, or will they be actually more honest about what's really going on in Europe? Of course, these are individuals who are native to these European countries, but are obviously tied to a bigger network, and that I'm guessing will end up being al-Qaeda in Yemen.
When you say what's really going on, you blame radical Islamic terrorism.
Of course. And look, this is a way to intimidate. This is a way, that's what terrorism is. You use violence, you use by any means to shut people up, to intimidate people, to control the narrative, to control people's minds. And you know what? You can talk about cartoonists, or you can talk about, young girls going to school and Boko Haram attacking them, or you can talk about the man who was beheaded yesterday by ISIS because he was smoking a cigarette. And you can also blame this on its hate speech and it's not free speech. But the question then becomes, how many cartoonists were in the World Trade Center? How many cartoonists were in the kosher deli in France? So, these are all excuses. And until the world comes together, this is now a task for Denmark and Europe as a whole, and then the West as a whole. Those who want to combat this global threat have to acknowledge, have to connect the dots and put this all together.
We talk about connecting the dots. The first one was right here in New York 25 years ago, the assassination of Marek Kahana, a rabbi in a hotel over on Lexington Avenue, just a few blocks from here, by someone who went on to be a member of that cell that then bombed the World Trade Center. And you got Theo van Gogh in Amsterdam, who spoke out in the documentary, stabbed to death right there in the middle of the street. How can we stop this? Is it too late, considering you got, 3,500 or so Westerners who they believe have joined ISIS and can come back here to kill us?
Right, and it's not just ISIS. And that's really the acknowledgement. If we stop to make differences and bring nuances into play here, we're only wasting our own time. They are all after the same agenda, whether it's the Taliban bombing that school in Pakistan, or al-Qaeda, or Boko Haram, or ISIS, as you say, who have American passports that are being trained to then go back into America. The Europeans have the same problem. These networks have been growing right under their noses, and now we're seeing a manifestation of this.
Well, this week, finally, there's supposed to be a White House conference on combating radicalism and terrorism. Do you think this conference being held by the administration is going to actually achieve anything?
We hope so. I mean, look, the Prime Minister of Denmark came out in the aftermath and she said, this is terrorism. I mean, she did not parse words. She did not waste any time to call it what it was. And if we see the same thing coming out of our administration, we can hope to combat the threat in the right way, to have actual intel, to go on the ground, get information, and then to combat it both strategically and diplomatically. Both are needed.
Well, that's on the agenda this week, this conference, and we'll be reporting on it and see what comes of it. Lisa, always good to see you.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us.